Good evening. We are live on Mile High Huddle, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter, but not all of our big Facebook groups. So we got to bring in Mile High Huddle on Facebook, and we've got to bring in the Mile High Huddle podcast Facebook group. So we must let it breathe. There's my notification that just hit me on my phone, which reminds me that the show has started and I haven't silenced my phone. So hit the like, subscribe, and share to make sure you get that same notification I just did. And you can have it go off at the wrong times too and go, damn, I'm missing the show. Welcome in, everybody. I am Scott Kennedy. I will be your co-host sitting in for Chad Jensen tonight. The community here has kind of nicknamed me the Deacon, so because I'm here with one of the football priests over here, Zack Kelberman. Zack, it's been a while. I've been through a couple countries since then, and it feels like I haven't seen you in a while, and a lot has happened since the MHH family has last seen you, including Bradley Chubb getting traded to the to the Miami Dolphins. What was your gut reaction to that trade?
Well, first of all, welcome back, Scott. It's always nice doing a show with you, so I'm happy you got to sit in for Chad tonight. Second of all, I have a lot to say, and I was, I guess, wrong because I said Monday I don't really feel a trade brewing, but like George Payton said, things came together at the last minute, and the Dolphins upped their offer to include that first-round pick, which the trade wouldn't have happened without that first-round pick. I'll say this about Bradley, okay? He is a foundational team-building player. He's a really good edge-rushing outside linebacker. He can play the run really well. He's a good locker room guy, team leader, captain, but he's not elite. He's not Von Miller. He's not Lawrence Taylor. He's not DeMarcus Ware. He's not in that tier. So we're talking about a good but not great player. And that good but not great player got nearly as much in guaranteed money from Miami today than the Broncos paid Randy Gregory in total on his 5-year contract. So you can be sad if you are about Bradley Chubb being traded, another building block of the Broncos being taken away, another ushering in of the new era, whatever. But it's such smart business by George Payton to do that, selling Bradley Chubb when his value is the highest, netting that first-round draft pick back and a fourth, and also a running back in Chase Edmonds. But we're talking about a guy, and I've already gotten Dolphins trolls in my mentions on Twitter, that has 2 more career sacks, 26, than he has games missed in the NFL. So he's been good when he's on the field, Scott, but he only has 5.5 sacks this season in 8 games for the Broncos. We're talking about a guy who's not exactly 10 sacks, 12 sacks, leading the league, one of those types of players. To get that return back on a depreciated player, 2018, he was drafted in the first round. Getting a first-round pick back for him was an excellent maneuver by George Payton. A+ for me.
I agree, because the other part of this is, and Payton alluded to it, but then cut it off quickly, says we're not going to talk anymore about this. I've said from the get-go, if he's going, it means that they were not able to come to an agreement or at least even come close to a contract extension discussion before they make the trade. So, yes, you don't want to give away, you don't want to trade your best players. You don't want to. You don't want to be a seller. You also don't want to lose them for nothing. Right. That's even worse. And that's what was going to happen at the end. Oh, I can tag him. Okay. Nobody wants to play on the tag. And it becomes acrimonious if you have to tag a player. And he ends up forcing a move anyway. I'm not playing on the tag. A guy that can get $100 million on the open market isn't playing on a quarter of that on a 1-year deal. So he ends up getting almost 3 times the guaranteed money that he would have gotten on a franchise tag. And that's why they don't want to be tagged. So he wasn't going to be a Denver Bronco in 2023, trade or no trade. So if you're able to make a move, and he played his way. So I think I would say to this point in the season, he has been elite. And that's why you were able to get a first-round pick for a guy that Broncos country has been hot and cold on, Zack. If you had said, and I asked this question, I'm going to ask it to you. I asked it to the group this morning. If you had said on Tuesday at noon, instead of an announcement of a trade, that they announced that you signed Bradley Chubb has agreed to terms for a contract extension with the Denver Broncos for 3 years and for 5 years and $119 million with 70 guaranteed, what would your reaction be?
I would not have liked that for a guy who's only had one double-digit sack year in his career. That was as a rookie. He can't stay on the field. It's been a blessing. He's been healthy this season, but he's in a contract year. So that's why it was such a good call by George Payton to flip him for that first-round pick. What he uses that first-round pick on, we don't know. It could be Sean Payton for all we know, but you got to build up that O-line. And he actually alluded to that as well.
I hadn't thought of that. That you could make a move. Now you've got the draft capital to get back in it, and you wouldn't just have to drop $100 million check to the Saints owner to try and get Sean Payton. Before we get too deep into this, I want to say hello to some folks in the chat who came in early with some supers, and we love you for it. And Chris Chance is coming in. Said PS2 Patrick Surtain Jr. for you and me. Is looking like he's having a Pro Bowl year. Next week's game will be the test. Hopefully we can keep on the winning streak. Chad and Zack still the best in the business. And, he actually paid to include me. Thanks, man. And also can't leave out Scott, still the man, Denver Broncos for life. Chris, you're the man. Double C, CC, appreciate you. Sam Bam, always coming in early. Huge supporter of the show. Thank you for being here, Sam. Good evening, Zach, Scott, and Broncos country. That's me and you and all y'all. After the Chubb trade, how many 2023 picks do the Broncos have as of now? Hopefully we can get our franchise right tackle with that first-round pick. Go Broncos. Right now, the Broncos have 6. They have a first, 2/3, a 4th, 5th, and a 7th. And we'll see how the board falls and see who's out there. And you might get a franchise tackle. Nick and I had this discussion back and forth this morning. You're not necessarily thinking right tackle. You're thinking offensive tackle. Because anybody that you would want to draft in the first round, you eventually want to use a first-round pick on a guy that's going to end up at left tackle. That's just the way the game works. Your resources get poured on the offensive line. Your money and draft picks go left tackle, right tackle, guard, center. That's pretty much how it works when you're talking about draft picks and money. So if you get a guy, you can have him at right tackle, let him break into the league, and then eventually move him over to left tackle. Unless he's so good, you leave him at right. So I don't want to necessarily think of just RT, but OT. And depending on how the board falls, yeah, you can get one of those guys with a late first-round pick, even if the San Francisco 49ers go on a nice long playoff run, Zach.
Yeah, I mean, you can even take that a step further and say just OL with the Broncos first-round pick. They can use help everywhere. Center, left guard, right tackle. My guy, though, if they're targeting that, and Sam Bam, you bring up a good point because George Payton said there's some needs the Broncos have on offense, and what else do they really need but linemen? Broderick Jones, the Georgia tackle, right now looking like in the first round where the Broncos are sitting 25, 27 range. It's not going to be hopefully 31 or 32. We have to root for the Niners to lose every game from here on out, but that's a guy you can target because they can't neglect it anymore. It doesn't matter what quarterback you have back there. It doesn't matter who you have calling the plays, who the head coach is. If you can't protect the quarterback, if you can't run the ball, none of it matters. So I think he will finally break that streak and use a premium pick on an offensive lineman.
Yeah, and I think, if you are to get a first-round caliber interior lineman, he's got to be Pro Bowl caliber, pretty quickly. But yeah, I feel like you can address the interior line cheaply in free agency and middle rounds of the draft. You can get guys that can help you. But again, it's got to be addressed. Edward Keating coming in. He is super excited. I got 6 weeks until we move to Colorado. So excited. We'll be moving into our new apartment in Littleton on December 17th. Well, congratulations, man. Can't wait to go to Broncos home games and meet you guys next year. Well, right back at you. We had a great time at the meet and greet, and this one was great. And from what I understand, it was better than the first one. And what I always say about my teams, my companies, whatever I'm doing, always get better. So the third round should be even better, Edward. We look forward to seeing you there. Appreciate the super.
And we're 2-0, by the way, at MHH meet and greets. We'll go to 3-0 with you in attendance next year, Edward. Can't wait to meet you.
That reminded me. I've been to 2 Broncos games. I'm 2-0. Let's get the Scott Kennedy travel fund going.
What are you doing next Sunday, Scott?
I'm 2-0.
Broncos need you.
We had the 49ers. What's funny is that for that 49ers win, you helped yourself. You didn't even know it. Coming down the list here, Michaela coming in big. Look at the hot pink.
As always. Thank you.
Says, I am sad to see Chubb go, and I am not sold on Gregory's ability to play to an elite status the whole season. but I still think it's a good deal for the Broncos. Now maybe we can draft an elite O lineman with this pick. Let's go Broncos. Michaela, I'm with you. You're upset that it came to this. That's the part that's disheartening. It's disappointing. I know our friend Naj is really upset about this because he's like, this was a year it was going to get better. And here we are, sellers again. If you're 6-1, Bradley Chubb, you can probably sign Bradley Chubb to an extension. He's excited about staying, and all of those things that make you feel good are good. Instead, you're sitting at 3-5. You've had that extension talks, didn't go the way that you wanted them to go, and you're having to sell one of your better players instead of being able to keep them, which that happens sometimes anyway, but definitely when you are on a losing team right now, and have been on a losing team, Zach, those guys want to go. So that's the part, as Michaela says, that makes me sad, because you're sad of why, but knowing that he was going to go, you're pretty excited about that trade. You're pretty excited about the return.
Yeah, my thing is, like, what did Chubb get from Miami? $130 million?
It could be up to 119, but it's basically 3 years, 70 million, and then options.
See, the guarantees he got alone, though, that's Von Miller money. And Bradley Chubb is on a Von Miller type of outside linebacker. So the Broncos were never going to pay him that much money. They couldn't justify it after signing Gregory, who, when he's on the field, to me, and that's the caveat here, of course, when Gregory is healthy and on the field, he is a monster. He was such a good player in the early part of the season for the Broncos, but you drafted Nick Bonito, who had something of a coming out party. Baron Browning looks like the truth. You have Jonathan Cooper also, and they picked up, because George Payton is masterful, the linebacker from the Jets, Jacob Martin, to kind of offset the Chubb loss. And what this allows you to do is pay Draymond Jones at the end of the year, because he's also a UFA. And for my money, we boiled this down months ago. If it came down to Chubb versus Draymond, I'm paying Draymond. And guess what? They both have the same number of sacks. And if you can give me the same number of sacks, 5.5 from a defensive lineman than from an outside linebacker, give me that defensive lineman all day, every day.
Yeah, especially in the schemes they've been playing. Anything you get out of an interior lineman is gravy. Your edge guy should be feasting in a scheme like this. Gregory is basically, it's a very flexible contract, Michaela. He's got 1 year on his deal. He signed a 2-year deal, and then it's club options after that. So if it doesn't work out for Gregory, you're out from his contract after next season. If it does work out, you keep him. You've got him under contracts that are then team friendly with options. But you are married to Gregory for 1 more year. And as Zack said, and I'm not sure if it was clear for everybody, but you couldn't afford to bring back Bradley Chubb. You couldn't. There's some escalating contracts, including Russell Wilson, including Randy Gregory. There was another one who goes up pretty high next year too. I don't remember who it is off the top of my head. Maybe it was Draymond that I was considering. Draymond, that you're at about 17 million under the cap right now. Those can change. Those numbers can change based on players you waive and restructures. But I don't really think you could afford to bring those guys back. Plum Bob coming in. You guys think if PS2 keeps his play up, he can make All Pro? Yes, I do.
Yeah,
yes, I do. It'll depend on who. I'm not sure who all had it last year. Jalen Ramsey will be legacied into one of those spots until he falls off dramatically. Usually you get 1 more year than you deserve when you're a guy of his reputation. So while he's still playing at a good level, he's going to be a legacy guy. But then after that, yes, PS2 could be. Let's see. AJ Terrell, I think, was a second-team guy last year, second-team All-Pro, and he's not playing at that level and has been hurt. So you're not getting pushed from him. JC Jackson, no, it's. I think yes. I think he can be All-Pro, not just Pro Bowl, but All-Pro.
Name like 2 cornerbacks better than PS2 right now. Jair Alexander, even though the Green Bay defense hasn't taken the step forward like we thought they would. PS2 for my money. I know Sauce Gardner is getting the love on social media from PFF, who ranked him higher than PS2, but PS2 right now is the best cornerback in the NFL. And it seems like Pro Bowl Scott would be a mere slap in the face. That's how good he's playing, locking down a receiver every week. I think he will be first team All-Pro, many to come in his career.
Yeah, and they don't the people doing the voting for this don't pay attention to PFF, because AJ Terrell was like 3rd best in the NFL last year and didn't make the Pro Bowl. He made second team All-Pro, but didn't make the Pro Bowl. So yes, Plum Bob, appreciate you coming in green with that super. Thank you very much for that support. Garth Knight coming in. He says, are many GMs so averse to picking offensive line in the first round? Because as Sheriff says, they aren't the greatest athletes on the field. The bad ones are.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, one of the GMs I watched for a long time was Thomas Dimitroff in Atlanta. And I was like, how do I come up with a metaphor or a simile or metaphor? I get them confused. A simile is like or as, to describe this guy. And I was like, he reminds me, he makes me think like he is an agent for a 7-on-7 quarterback. I'm going to get my quarterback as much money as I can get him because I'm going to get a cut of that. And then I'm going to get as many skill players as I can. And we don't even play with linemen. So that's what he was like. George Payton, I don't think is nearly as line averse. We've known him for what now? 18 months, Zach, a year and a half. He hasn't fixed everything, but on paper, needed help in the trenches on both sides of the ball. The defensive line looks good. You've done well there. You needed some help at edge. You got help at edge. You needed help at quarterback. On paper, you got help at quarterback. Now it's offensive line's turn. Zach, it's time. Enough with this. You can't keep going to war with the same guys. You're getting your ass kicked.
I mean, to what you said, if the players aren't good, they're not going to be good no matter what round you pick them in. And if you have the right guy picking the groceries, you can find starting linemen in the first round, the seventh round, anywhere in between. But if you look at George Payton's track record, I tweeted this yesterday, just since 2021, his first 2 years on the job, Pat Surtain, starter. Javonte, starter. Quinn Minor, starter. Baron Browning, starter. Dulcich, starter. Damari Mathis, starter. Montreal Washington, starter. That's not even including Nick Benito and Jonathan Cooper, Caden Stearns. The one thing that George Payton is truly elite at is drafting. So if he actually uses that capital to hone in on an offensive lineman in the first round, I have little doubt he will find the right guy.
I would also add salary cap management for the most part. As a strength. So if you're good at salary cap management and drafting, you're going to be okay. you're gonna be okay. Let me scroll down here just a little bit. Coming in on Facebook, getting us started on Facebook is Andrew Baker. He said, "Sup, MHH fam. I know it's a bye, but how does this run defense stop Henry with help? You get some extra bodies. Tannehill, I don't think is playing. I think I read something that he was held out of practice today. The Titans aren't a good team. They're beatable for sure, but the run defense can be very good. And if you load up and dare them to beat you with the pass, you can stop the run. This defense has been really, really good. Appreciate the stars. 78 Leadhead coming and says, boom. One of our great community members in the comments and stuff on YouTube. Draymond is a correct choice here. Interior pass rushers don't grow on trees. No, it's really, really hard. And, everybody's moving up a rung, Zach. You have depth at edge rusher. Bradley Chubb was your number one, unquestionable. Whenever, Brandon Gregory might have been that guy, but he hasn't been healthy enough. Bradley Chubb has been number one this year. Everybody's got to move up a rung. So, but there is some depth there. There's not an interior line. No. Draymond goes out, you're going, oh, shnikes. Oh, holy shnikes. You're in trouble. So, again, a good move. You're upset why you had to make it, but you're happy with the move itself, the trade itself.
I also don't think Fangio's scheme was really conducive for Draymond Jones. And now in Evero's attacking scheme, it's more fitting his abilities. And you're seeing what he's done, 5.5 sacks. He was the AFC Defensive Player of the Week. You're talking about a former third-round pick who's getting better and better and better with the opportunity. And I'm going to keep that guy around. He is a literal anchor for the Broncos defense.
You know who else I like keeping around is Albert Knoppers. So hello, Albert. He says, I'll listen later. I'm at rehearsal. Well, appreciate you checking in, Albert. We will see you soon. And I want to take care of a little bit of business here, as far as keeping people around. We want to keep you around Broncos country because if you're like me, you're increasingly getting more concerned about cybercrime with people stealing your private data and invading your privacy. I am tech savvy. I was a former IT manager in a former life in my 20s, long time ago. That's why I now use NordVPN on all my browsers, whether it's my desktop, my tablet, my laptop, my phone. VPN stands for Virtual Private Network, and NordVPN protects you as a one-stop shop for all things cybersecurity. It's incredibly easy for me to use, which means I don't have to be an MIT graduate to figure it out. I can be a lowly public school Auburn grad and Alabama grad to figure this thing out. So that means you can too. With just one click, I am protected. It's very intuitive to use with my NordVPN account. I can have up to 6 devices. I no longer have to worry about hackers, malicious sites, and pop-ups for the price of a single cup of coffee per month. I have complete peace of mind knowing that my devices and data are protected. Plus, with NordVPN, I'm never a slave to media blackouts. Like when I travel to England to watch the Denver Broncos in person, I can still check back in stuff in the United States because I can switch my virtual location to a market that is showing games, Netflix, Hulu, all that stuff I want to watch so I don't miss out, and I can catch the action where and when I want to.
Yeah, listen up, Broncos country. Grab your exclusive NordVPN deal by going to nordvpn.com/MHH to get a huge discount off your NordVPN plan and 4 months free. It's completely risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. Again, that's nordvpn.com/MHH to get 4 months free.
All right, Zach. Joe Mama coming in, pointing something out here. He says, Chubb hasn't gotten a sack in the past 3 games, a result of not having Gregory. Yeah, getting keyed on there. It's nice to have a partner in crime when you're out there. Whether he's had a sack or not, again, he has played really, really well this year. He played his way into a $120 million contract and a first-round pick in a trade. That's how well he has played this year.
But see, $120 million linebackers, guys who get $63 million guaranteed, it shouldn't be dependent on having a partner in crime. You're paying them to beat your offensive lineman one-on-one and get that sack. And that's why Chubb's a good player. I like him a lot. I'm happy he got paid, but he's not in that Von Miller elite category, and he got Von Miller money. So I'm glad it wasn't the Broncos who ponied up in that sense.
I just think, I'm gonna try and give the benefit of the doubt on this, and I'm not gonna worry too much about the individual numbers if the collective is as good as it's been for the Denver Broncos. For those of you that follow the DVOA stuff, the Broncos have the most efficient defense. They have the best defense in the NFL. Scoring has been there. See, scoring was there last year, Zach, where we talked about it was a top 3 defense in points against. Oh, that's all that matters is points. I'm like, no, not always, because when you slow the game down and limit the possessions, you're keeping the points down on both sides. You're just keeping the score down. You're not necessarily limiting your team. So, and I think it didn't ever feel like that was a good defense last year. The other team would just take longer to drive down and have longer drives to go drive down and score on you. This defense feels like it's getting the job done, period. If they have a break, everybody has a breakdown, but you think of where this offense has put the defense, and on the whole, this unit has been amazing, and Bradley Chubb has been really good. But I get your point for sure that you need a guy for $23 million for top 5 money. I need him to be so good that it doesn't matter who's on the other side.
Exactly, in top 5 money, and right now he's ranking 13th. He's tied for 13th in sacks in the NFL with 5.5. Number 1 is Zadarius Smith. 2 is Matthew Judon. Alex Highsmith is on there. Justin Houston, age 55, is on that list as well. He has more sacks. So if you're going to be that guy, the guy who gets $63 million, it doesn't matter if you have me on the other side pass rushing. I want you to beat your lineman, and I want you to take over a game. And Bradley Chubb, he's been good, very good, just to me, not elite, not overly great.
The Broken Pirate says he will do well opposite Jalen Phillips. It's a good team. It's a good team. The Dolphins are becoming a really good team. We can hit on this soundbite here real quick. Von Miller said, well, we'll just play it. I'll let you know exactly what Von Miller said. Okay. So let's play the audio. Roll audio, producer.
I talked to Chubb. I talked to him like 2 weeks ago, then last week too. So, he kind of was prepared for it. Yeah, I talked to him yesterday. I was like, man, you look way better than I look, because when I got traded last year, I was crying and I could barely talk. And he was good. He was in good spirits. I had spent 11 and a half years there, and he, spent 4.5. So it's just a little difference. But whenever you it just refreshes you. Whenever you get out of tough situation like that, and you can go to a winning team that needs you to win right now, man. It just recharges you, and I'm sure Chubb is feeling that same way.
Ouch, Vaughn. Ouch.
That wasn't said with malice. That was said from the heart, and it was truthful. I don't think that was a shot at the Denver Broncos on purpose, but he did go to a team that was winning and needs you to win right away. And it refreshes you. Has Bradley Chubb ever been on a winning Broncos team?
Nope.
No. Is this a winning Broncos team right now?
Nope.
Them's facts, man. Vaughn wasn't being malicious. He was just saying to go to a winning team. And it hurts to hear it. It does. It does. What else comes in and says, knowing Chubb and Miller got paid makes me feel better. And that's kind of my point. The discussion about, we could have had Von Miller back. No, you couldn't. Von Miller wasn't coming back. You couldn't beat the Bills' offer. He was on the open market, and they gave him a crazy deal. Crazy. They need to win it all this year because in year 3, it was basically a 3-year deal. In year 3, it ain't going to be the same Von Miller. If it is, holy cow, that dude's a freak of freaks, and it's going to be a ton of money. So they need to win this year. You weren't going to match that deal that they gave them, and you didn't want to match the deal that the Dolphins were going to give him. And Bradley Chubb was going to get a deal like that. He was going to be a free agent if you didn't. He wasn't re-signing. The Broncos were going to offer him that money, and he wasn't going to re-sign for less than that.
Well, from Vaughn's point of view, it's like, Buffalo or Denver? Where do I want to go? Where do I want to win another ring, with and with whom? And I think it was a good landing spot for Vaughn, and they're off to a great start this year, and he looks like the old Von Miller, but I'm just not firmly a believer in Miami yet. I feel like they're much better than they have been, and Mike McDaniel's a good coach, but how far is Tua going to take you? And can he overcome when defenses in the second half of the season begin to adjust and roll coverage and take some weapons away? You take away Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle, they don't have much of they don't have much of a running game. What are you going to do? So I'll believe they're a Super Bowl championship caliber threat when I see it. Buffalo, I believe. Miami, I'm not there yet.
Yeah, and that's the thing, though, is they went after the difference here is they got a guy who's 26, not 32. So this was an investment, not necessarily, as Vaughn said that Buffalo a little bit later, he says that Buffalo's, Miami's all in. They're not all in for this year. If you're they signed him to a long-term deal and hope that they want to pay him. They don't want to have to figure out how to get out of his contract after 3 years. They want to use those last 2 option years because he's only 26 years old. So it isn't quite the same. This isn't a closing window for Bradley Chubb and the Miami Dolphins. Kenny Booker, KB82, coming in. He says, "What's up, fellas? Do you think Nathaniel Hackett's just like Eric Bieniemy, where Andy Reid is the one making the calls and he is the OC in name?" Zack, you'll remember one of my hesitations about hiring the offensive coordinator with an uber quarterback was hiring the offensive coordinator with an uber quarterback. And Andy's not even calling the plays. It's the Office Space thing. What exactly do you do here? It gave me hesitation. If you're not calling the plays, and how hard is it to call the plays for Aaron Rodgers? It's concerning. It was concerning.
And that's why the argument for me, it's like, if you want to strip Hackett of play calling duty, just fire him. He has no utility otherwise. He doesn't do anything overly well. You hired him to be the OC, and he's derelicting that duty, so to speak, with Russell Wilson. So it's either you keep him around at full bore or you get rid of him. And I don't know. We'll see what happens.
So, yeah, I agree. I said he's still on the trajectory of a one and done, and Nick thought I meant this morning meant like 1 week. I meant actually at least get the year, but he's like, I don't know if he lasts the year, man. It could be he's game to game at this point, which could be true. And Andrew Baker, one of our great supporters on Facebook, comes in. He says, "I know it's hard and cliche, but what's your record prediction for the season, having an 8-game sample size?" Where are we at? 3-5 right now at Tennessee. Vegas again, at Carolina, at Baltimore, Kansas City, Arizona, at Rams, at Kansas City, Chargers.
I don't know. It's tough to see more than like 4-5 wins in there tops. And to the thing about Hackett, I feel like him beating the Jaguars by 4 points, but still getting that victory kind of bought him the season. If they were going to fire him, it would have been over the bye week, would have been perfect at 2-6. But I agree with you, Scott. I think he'll get the year, but 7-10 is what 538, the data-driven outlet, predicted for the Broncos. Right now, they have an 11% chance of making the playoffs. I just don't see, as they're playing, struggling to beat Jacksonville, how you get better than 7-10 or 8-9. Sadly.
Yeah, and my prediction on this, Andrew, would be three more out of this group. So that would be 6-11. 6-11. At Tennessee, I haven't looked at the line, but there's no way you're favored. Vegas, you should get a win. Carolina will probably be a push, and I'll give you the benefit of the doubt and say a win. At Baltimore, loss. Kansas City, loss. Arizona at home, I'll say win. At Rams, loss. At Kansas City, loss. LA Chargers is your 3-4 line right there if you set the over-under at 3.5.
The Raiders beat the Broncos already, and Josh Jacobs owns them, so I wouldn't circle that as a W for the Broncos. Exactly. I'll reverse that with you, though, about LA. The Rams, they are not scaring me. Their offense is abysmal, and I feel like Ejiro Evero coming from LA will know how to combat them. So on Christmas, I can see the team giving the fan base a present, but will it matter by that point? Is 7-10 is not going to get in, and 8-9 is not going to get in.
Yeah,
so
who's playing for what at that point is what it comes down to a certain extent. So yeah, I would set the over under for season wins now at 6.5. Not good.
How far are we fallen in just a few months?
Not good. Cody W comes in. He says, trade the first for 2 seconds and fix the O-line, please. As Zach said, hell, maybe you're trading it for Sean Payton. I hadn't even thought of that. Great. That was good thinking. But yes, we had talked about the trade down scenario. With 6 picks, you could spin a first into 7 or 8 draft picks. Literally, you could. I was okay. I'm going to trade down. I'm going to get a second, a fourth, and a fifth. There's 3. I'm going to take that fourth and turn it into a 6th and a 7th. I'm going to take that 5th and turn it into a 6th and a 7th next year. You can turn that into a bunch of players. Do you want to? Maybe, maybe not. But it's time to invest in the offensive line. You've got in 2 drafts. You've gotten Miners. You've gotten Wattenberg. And where was Miners taken last year? 3rd round.
Yeah.
3rd round. So a 3rd and a 5th, I think, was Wattenberg may have been a 6th, which that's not really drafting an offensive lineman. That's taking a chance. Investing in the offensive line for me is 4th and above. And it's time. I agree with you, Cody. It's time.
Could be a case where it depends where the Niners finish. If the Broncos get the 20th pick, they might move down to like 27, 28. And in that trade would net another 2nd round pick. That'd be ideal, but it's all depending on where Peyton wants to go, what player they're targeting, and if the player's still on the board. But even he acknowledged, and by now it's time. They can't neglect right tackle specifically any longer. They have to dump some premium picks or a pick into that position. And I think they finally will.
KB coming back in, he says, I was hoping we traded Jeudy and got back almost an entire draft in trading 2 players. We could have gotten a 1st, 2nd, 4th, and a 5th for them. Yeah, I think the difference here. 1, you didn't get the 2nd that you were hoping for, and he might have been gone. 2, he has another year and maybe 2 more years of control, whereas you had 9 games of Bradley Chubb left, where you've got 1 season, you've got 9 plus next year. And if Jeudy plays up to a decent level, you may pick up his option, which would be about a $12 million, $13 million 5th-year option. So you could have Jerry Jeudy for 2.5 more years. So it wasn't quite as urgent to make that deal. And you'd be selling low. You'd be selling low on Jerry Jeudy, whereas Bradley Chubb's value as a player hasn't been this high since he was a rookie. Now, at the end of his rookie season, you probably could have gotten 2 firsts and change for him. You get a rookie with 12 sacks. You can spin him for whatever the hell you want to. Then 3 years of injuries, and he's coming off of that, and with only half a year left on his contract, and you were still able to get a first for him, that you were selling high. That's as high as his value has been since his rookie season. You'd be selling low on Jerry Jeudy right now. Can it go lower? It could, but you've got more time for him to bounce back.
I think the Broncos winning that game as well and keeping their season alive took them out of the running to have a fire sale. And by fire sale, I mean trading away Hamler and Jeudy and Albert O and Melvin Gordon, everybody else. But this might be a hot take. Jerry Jeudy right now might be the Broncos wide receiver 1. Last couple games, he's looked really good. He had that nice touchdown off the jet sweep where he got the ball from Russell Wilson. They're incorporating him into the offense more and more and really starting to unlock that talent because when he's on, man, he is an explosive playmaking receiver who can take over a football game. And I just don't think the Broncos either got an offer that blew them away. To trade Jerry Jeudy, George Paton had to be no doubt about it. And if he's not getting more than what Chase Claypool drew from Chicago, a second and a sixth, I think, or a fifth, it didn't make sense to do it. They want to keep the band together. You can't trade for a franchise quarterback, pay that quarterback $250 million, and then strip his weapons away in week 9. So I actually understand why George Paton kept him around.
I think Hackett and Russ, what do we call that? Ruckett? Hack Russ are figuring out how to use Jerry Jeudy, and it's not down the field. Get him the ball. Just get him the ball. If it's in the backfield, swing passes, bubble screens, quick slants, drag routes, but get him the ball, and you can use the short passing game with him and open up the outsides more. You mentioned Okwebanam. If they had been offered some leftover Halloween candy for Okwebanam, they would have taken it. But Reisner, I think, may have gotten the right deal. But again, we said this on Tuesday. I've said it a lot. In order to make a trade, you've really got to give up, and to get anything back, you've got to give up something you don't want to give up. It's got to hurt a little bit for the most part. You know, I kind of use this all the time, but it's like I read the comments and I see people on Twitter and social media like, man, this guy sucks. He's overpaid. He's always injured. Can't stand him. We need to trade him. That's not how trades work, man. You didn't do much of a sales job there. Those are the guys you got to cut. You know, he's a bad attitude. He's always fumbling the ball. He's not a good running back. He's washed at this point. Trade him. Who wants to trade for that guy? Who wants to trade for that guy?
And he didn't just survive the trade deadline. Melvin Gordon retained his starting job. That's what, according to George Paton, he said that Melvin's still our starter, Latavius, and will compete with Chase Edmonds and Marlon Mack and whoever else is in the Broncos backfield now. So Melvin, I don't know what incriminating photos he has on George Paton and the Broncos coaching staff, but he's like a cockroach, man. He just won't go away. He will always survive and always maintain. But you're right about not really selling the player to the rest of the league. It takes two to tango, and you can't just want to trade a player. You have to find a trade partner for him. And according to Paton, I think Keith will have an article up on the website about this. Paton said, we're going to need Alberto in the second half of the season. We believe in him. We like him. You can say one thing, but his inactivity says quite another.
Yeah, I'm wondering how many years are left on his contract. If he's a free agent, that's a strange thing to say. But I mean,
2021, 22, one more.
Okay, but that's also something you say. You know, did you try and trade Albert Okwebanam? No, we weren't able to. We didn't get anything for him. You know, no. They're not honest up there. You're going to go up there and say no one wanted him. We threw it out there. I put him on Craigslist and didn't get anything. You know, you're not going to say that publicly. No, he's a big part of this team. We're happy to have him here. It's all BS. What's not BS is Phil McLaughlin and his support for this show coming in saying evening Scott and evening Zack and Deacon Scott. Hey, that's me. Off to the granddaughters volleyball. Just saying hi. Go Broncos. MHH for life. Well, I hope you have a good time. Never felt so short in my life as when I went to a high school volleyball tournament with my younger sister, and all the girls there were 6'2", let alone their parents. I was like, when did I become the short guy, for God's sake? So have a good time there. Hope you have fun. Garth Knight coming in green again. Here, we just hit on a little bit of this. What do y'all think we could have gotten for Jeudy? I believe he and number 3 are improving, but number 3 has always gotten more of lesser wide receivers in his career. the chemistry has definitely improved there about figuring out how to get how Russell Wilson can get Jerry Jeudy the ball. And I don't think you got an offer for a 2, or Jeudy may have been somewhere else, and you would have been selling low, which you didn't want to do.
Yeah, again, I don't think George Payton would have traded him for anything less than Chase Claypool. And again, I think it was a second and a late round or mid round pick. So why not bank on his upside? He's under team control cheaply. He's developing chemistry with your quarterback. He's getting better once you start to entrust him with the ball, and once he actually catches the ball, he can make things happen. And I firmly agree with Scott. And the same thing applies to KJ Hamler. Just get him the freaking football and let their natural God-given talent take over. And the Broncos finally, hopefully, are starting to realize that.
Well, it's complementary, and that's the thing is you've got 3 receivers with very different skill sets, and they should complement one another instead of, you've got a bigger possession guy who can use on the outside in Cortland Sutton. I've got an underneath guy with some wiggle that I want to figure out how to get the ball, and then I've got a deep threat. So if I'm getting Jeudy the ball in jet sweeps, bubble screens, I line those 2 up. I line Jeudy up in the slot and Hamler upside, and I've just run 3 straight bubble screens to Jeudy for 25 yards. The next time I fake that thing, the safety bites and Hamler's freaking gone. It's not rocket science. So figure it out. But again, a lot of this has to do with being able to protect your OL, having the OL. It's hard to do anything when I take a snap and my center's in my lap. Then Jeudy and Hamler and Sutton just don't matter. They don't matter. What Hackett doesn't matter. It got better when Glasgow was out there.
You sound like Zack Kelberman, circa 2016 through 2022. It doesn't really matter who's back there, who's the quarterback, who's calling plays. If your line sucks, your offense sucks. Simple as that. And the other thing about Jerry Jeudy, his attitude concerns, that's why a lot of Broncos country wanted the Broncos to trade him. After the win, when Russell Wilson was having his interview, Jerry Jeudy jumped up and congratulated him and celebrated with him, jumped over his back. So he is growing as a person. He's a 24-year-old kid out there on the football field. He was king crap at Alabama, but he hasn't been in the NFL. And I think he's slowly but surely maturing and again, letting his physical gifts take over. And once you just get him the ball, you get him the football and good things happen. Very simple concept.
I take every chance I get to take a dig at the double holdback Calvin Ridley, who turned 20 his senior year in high school and aged out and entered the league as a turned 24 his rookie season. Jerry Jeudy is still younger than Calvin Ridley was as a rookie.
New Jaguars receiver Calvin Ridley.
Yeah, we'll see. But again, some guy, my son is an old head. He's 13 going on 50. I think he's more mature than I am. That's not a high bar to set, but he is 13. Some of them are old heads. Some of these kids take a little longer. Some of us never grow up. Jeudy is a little on the more immature side as opposed to, say a Kyle Pitts who came into the league at 20 years old and is, a little bit different. So Jeudy still has time. And I think it's almost like he's a little insecure and just needs to feel loved. Give me the ball. Do you care about me at all? Oh, you do? I'm so happy. Keep him involved and you'll get the best out of Jerry Jeudy. And if you want to sell high. That's why you're not selling now. You're not selling low on a player who's got the tools of Jerry Jeudy. Jay Valentine comes when you've got contract control. You've got 2.5 years of control left on his contract. You don't sell low at that point. 9 games left. You get what you can for him. Zack and Scott, do y'all see Tom Compton replacing Reisner? What do you think about that one?
Interesting. I want to see him, actually get on the field and start practicing consistently and being worked into a game. Judging how they used Billy Turner, he didn't play until week 6, week 7. It could be an acclimation process. I would like it though. I think Compton is a better guard than a tackle, but he has versatility to play both. And right now, I don't know though, because it's like Reisner's struggling, but who's your left tackle? Calvin Anderson isn't great. Cameron Fleming isn't great. And Billy Turner at right tackle isn't great either. So whoever is struggling the most on the O-line, that's where I see Tom Compton fitting in.
And Reisner to this point has been him and Cushenberry have been the untouchables. Cushenberry goes out with an injury and Glasgow is immediately an improvement. Can that be sustained? We'll see. The mobility of Glasgow was a problem at guard in a little bit more space. The ability to hold the point of attack was a problem for Cushenberry. That one bothers me more. If I've got a guy lined head up over my center, I want to make sure he doesn't end up in my lap of my quarterback. I won't be able to get to the second level as well, but that doesn't matter if I'm getting bullied at the point of attack. Cushenberry or Glasgow was able to hold that point of attack. That's an improvement. Then you worry about the mobility of your guards. I haven't seen Compton. I was making fun of the Sasquatch, Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster, and Billy Turner. I don't know what to expect from Tom Compton. Based on his numbers and everything from last year, he's a great run blocker. Not necessarily a great pass blocking tackle. Well, you know what a great run blocking, not so good pass blocking offensive tackle sounds like to me, Zach? A guard. So I'd love to see it too. There was a question in here, and I'm not sure if it was a super or not. Yeah, it was a super coming in that I wanted to get to. Cody came in. He says, Cush has 1 year on his contract. What's the loss if he's cut peanuts? His dead cap number next year is $230,000. And you say his cap hit is 1.4, so you save 1.2 million. He's cheap. He's super cheap, but you get what you pay for. And it's a 1.2 million savings. If he's great, you love it. You'd be happy to pay him 3 times that if he was worth it. You'd be getting him an extension now. But it's not a loss. It's actually a gain. You get 1.2 million back in salary cap money. That doesn't get you a replacement. That gets you money towards a replacement.
The thing with Cush is too, like, he really has no other position he can try to fit into. Like, I don't think he'd survive at guard. Obviously, he's on a tackle, and as a backup, you already have Wattenberg waiting in the wings. So yeah, I don't think they're going to cut him, but they're not going to bring him back either. I think Cush's time as a starter, at least with the Broncos, has come to an end. Glasgow probably will hold that spot down for the rest of the year.
Yeah, he's got 2.5 years of bad play. How much more of a sample size do you need? RD coming in with the Canadian Blue. He says, what happened to Sutton? Part of what happened to Sutton is he was the only guy out there, and defensive coordinators, for the most part, aren't morons. I'm just going to roll everybody that direction. You can't throw it to Sutton anymore. And I think he's gotten a little disheartened. And
yeah, for sure.
If I'm an outside receiver, you know what my quarterback needs to get me to the ball, unless it's just a straight fade every time? Time. He needs time. Unless it's a catch and throw up in the air, which isn't a basis of an offense. Ironically, that's how we saw Sutton used most of the time the first 3 games. Oh, single coverage? Throw it out there. Let's get it out there quick. So it's hard for me to be too critical of everyone else when your offensive line play has been so poor. So this guy's open, but he's not being seen. And there's a 6'6" guy in Russell Wilson's face. Russell Wilson looks jittery back there. Well, no kidding. He has 0 time. The wide receivers aren't performing. The running backs aren't performing. Well, why is that? Because the defensive line is setting up shop 4 yards behind the line of scrimmage. I don't know what this offense can do yet.
I think you touched on all the major points about Courtland Sutton. He started the year really hot, but once teams rolled coverage over, they dared the Broncos' other receivers to beat them, and the Broncos' other receivers really haven't. And the Broncos' offense has been a dumpster fire pretty much from week 1. But also about Court looking disheartened. I've thought the same thing, and I've thought so for a few years now. And I feel bad for him because he struggled through bad coaches, bad quarterbacks, and he's given his all. He's been a really good receiver. But this year, I mean, a new quarterback comes in, new head coach comes in, and Sutton really isn't giving that effort. He's not really snatching the ball away like he used to. There's no real 80-20 balls anymore with Courtland Sutton. It's more like 60-40 or 50-50. So on one hand, I don't blame him. On the other, I want to say to him, step up a little bit more and go be a little more tenacious in jump ball situations.
When William coming in here, I think you just misspoke because someone was kind of making fun of this. He says, but I hope Wilson doesn't override the coaches about Cush and Glasgow at center when Cush is better. I think he means, because the idea is the scuttlebutt is like it came down to Russ was the tipping point in this. He felt a little better about Cushenberry in front of him. but Glasgow is better than Cush, and he hope he doesn't override them on that. If your quarterback is overriding your coaches on who to put in what position, those coaches should be fired yesterday. If the coaches say we want Glasgow and Wilson says, well, I want Cushenberry, and if it's Cushenberry, the coaches need to be gone tomorrow, yesterday, gone, fired. What are you here for? That's not your job, quarterback. One of the worst high school quarterbacks I ever saw. Good kid, good talented kid, offers from all over the place. I went and watched him in a 7-on-7. And it's 7-on-7, summer, it's development time. And he actually threw the ball down, spiked it because his buddy was in its slot. He's like, I don't want that guy in its slot. I want him in its slot, and spiked the ball. Yeah, he didn't make it. He didn't make it. And at this level, that's just not how it works. So if he overrides him, fire him.
Yeah, Cush isn't really Cush. Cush is more like mid. And those who know. And I was a big proponent.
I even got that one. I understood that reference.
Of Cushenberry. I really was. I thought maybe in the new system, the wide zone system would be beneficial, but he just doesn't just have the strength and the power to play at the NFL level. It's tough, man, but that's the game. So I think the Broncos found a better sub right now in Glasgow, who at least is a competent starting caliber center.
I don't know what it was. I usually trust myself a little bit more and stick to my guns, but I started hearing about this scheme, this wide zone. It'll help this blah, blah, blah. Man, I know better. If you're a scheme dependent, you can't play. Not good enough is not good enough. Oh, he'll be better in the scheme. He might be better in the scheme, but if he's crap in one scheme, he's not good enough. You need to upgrade. You need to do better.
The Broncos can also upgrade their OL coach because I have not been impressed at all with Butch Barry. If there's one guy to fall on the sword that's not named Nathaniel Hackett, it needs to be Barry. I don't know, looking back on it, why the Broncos moved on from Munchak to get a coach that made every player on the OL, maybe with the exception of Quinn Miners, worse. He's been bad.
Is that an insecurity? I don't want someone here. I want to form my own bonds.
I'm sure it was his boy.
I don't want him to be undercutting me with the current play with the players. I feel like a little bit of that could be an insecurity, and that's a red flag. I don't know.
Surprise me.
That's like I said. That's just a question. Munchak may say, "No, I don't want to play for this guy. I don't want to be here anymore." That could be it. I don't know. Just asking a question.
Could have been loyal to fans.
Michael Ranchio comes in. He says, I hope George Payton re-signs Draymond Jones after the 2022 NFL season. You need to write SEO for us, man. You're just hitting all of those key words in a chat. It's amazing. Key part on the Broncos defense, go Broncos. Yes, he is. And I love his personality. He's I don't know how, I don't give a darn type of guy. I'm going to say what I want to say. I love him. I do. I'm a big fan of Draymond, and just talking about, again, if you can get an interior penetration from your interior lineman in a 3-4 and in a base 3-4, you got something. You do. You've absolutely got something.
I fell in love with Draymond last year when he was asked about Teddy and Drew and who he wants at quarterback, and he said, matter-of-factly, I don't give an S. I love that type of answer. He's unfiltered. He's brutally honest. He loves football, and he's pretty good at football as well. He's the Broncos version of Aaron Donald. And I'm not saying he's Aaron Donald. I'm saying he's a miniature version of him. You got to keep those guys around.
I put up one of his quotes on the shirt. He's like, you having a hard time getting pressure on Russell Wilson at this, and this. He's like, not really. He's like, why is that? He says, because I'm good at football. My man. My man. Yeah, and Maurice comes in here
nope.
And again, talking about that, Cushenberry is inexpensive. You can't trust the cheap Cush. You gotta upgrade. You gotta go premium at that. You go cheap, you get cheap. And I was a fan of what Cushenberry said last year. When they drafted Miners, we forget Miners was drafted as a center. He was moved to guard. He can do both. Maybe do both. He was moved to guard. We never really saw him at center, but they made a pretty quick appraisal and he ain't going to work at center. So maybe he can't play center. But Cushenberry's self-deprecating honesty in the media was, if I had played better last year, he wouldn't have been drafted. Okay, well, he didn't play a whole lot better his second year and hadn't been looked much better in his third year. Enough, man, enough.
The Broncos need some dink at center, and I think they have the capital now if they want to go that route to get that dink.
Yeah, I know. I get the first reference. After that, I can read into the context, but you're losing me on that one.
That purple, you know what I'm talking about? That OG?
I'm catching up. Cody's helping me out here. So.
Getting a whiff of it?
Yeah. Everything smells like skunk weed to me walking around in downtown places. Go down Atlanta and Denver. I'm like, I'm getting a contact buzz. Alec coming in. He says, I like how Vaughn casually called Denver a trash team without actually saying it. Again, Vaughn, you can read his body language and how easy he said it, that he was just being there wasn't any malicious intent there. It was just the Broncos haven't had a winning team since what? 15?
16. 9-7.
9-7 and 16? That's a long time, man. That's Bradley Chubb's entire career. So when you go from a losing team, which is all Bradley Chubb is known, to a team fighting for the playoffs, it's reinvigorating. That's pure honesty, no shot intended. Because later on, you know what? I want to finish this one too. I'm gonna add this because Vaughn had a little more to say about this too. I'm gonna add. I want you to finish some of this that I cut up.
No, I just talked to Chubb. I talk to Chubb all the time, but that being traded had came up in our conversations, and he was good, man. He was I don't think you ever could expect it, but he was prepared for it. So, it was good to see him smile and good to see him excited about South Beach. No, I think I got a great example, here in Brandon Beane, and of course I pay attention to the Broncos and what George Payton is doing, and and John Lynch too. Those are like three guys that I like, look up to as far as being a GM. And, I just pay attention to what they're doing. Success leaves clues.
Are Vaughn's pupils super dilated or just?
I don't know. It was dark in there, though. You could tell because his forehead wasn't shining out like mine does. So it was dark in there. So they didn't have the lights on him. But, he's a success leaves clue. He pays attention to how George Payton works in the Denver Broncos. There's still a lot of love for the Denver Broncos and Von Miller, without a doubt. There's no animosity there or anything. There was no malicious intent. With his statement earlier about the Broncos being going to a winning team, inferring that the Broncos were not.
I mean, George Payton did right by both Von Miller and Bradley Chubb. Traded one to the Rams and one to the Dolphins, two playoff contenders. You can't ask for more than that. And he got them both paid. He got them both major contracts in a sense. So I understand why Vaughn, he didn't outright trash the Broncos, but he's being honest. And like Scott said, the truth hurts. It really does. The Broncos are 3-5 right now. It's looking like another lost season. They're not an overly successful team. They're not doing things overly well on offense, and they're looking like they're another sinking ship. So to say it's a tough situation is just the truth.
It's funny. I think I'm getting uglier as I get older because when I was younger, it was Boomer Esiason and then Phil Simms and now Manning as my forehead keeps getting bigger and bigger. So Scott, Peyton Manning. That's the one I get the most, but maybe it's the crowd. Maybe it's the crowd instead. Everybody thinks of Peyton Manning. Nobody even knows who Boomer Esiason is anymore. That's
some rarefied air, though, man. It could be worse.
Well, my hair used to be white. If you've got any kind of blonde at all, I had white hair when I was a kid. I didn't know what a towhead was, but I was one of those guys. But Zach, we are coming up on an hour right now. I think it's, unless there's any burning desires here. What do you desire to get off your chest? It's probably about time for us to get out of here.
Yeah, we could do the head-to-head against the bye week, but the Broncos might struggle in that game as well. Yeah, we have really nothing else to touch on unless you guys have some questions or comments, but I'm going to do the rundown really quickly while Scott holds it down. That was the Mile High Huddle podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in with us this evening. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at the MHH Pod. The main account on Twitter at Mile High Huddle, Scott on Twitter at Scout Kennedy, myself at Kelberman NFL, and also our other co-host on this program, Chad Jensen at Chad and Jensen. If you guys want some merch, you know what it is, where it is, huddleuppod.com, and get your merch on. I'm not going to say swag because I don't want to insult Cushionberry like that, but also facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod, like that page and follow that page. If you haven't, go to Apple Podcasts and leave your football priest and the deacon a 5-star review for a chance to win some of that merch each and every month. But as you see ticking below you, Please sub, like, and share this video and every video you see on the MHH channel. It really helps us grow and reach more Broncos fans just like you. Scott, last word.
Last word, pain. No, that's prediction. Looking forward to, I've kind of got a Saturday off. Looking forward to watching some college football for a change. And then going to watch some AFC West. I'm going to check out the LA Chargers are coming to Atlanta. So we'll get to watch that game. They're a little banged up. The 4-4 first place Atlanta Falcons taking on the Chargers. We had that one written up as a big dub for the Chargers. Maybe not so much. Maybe, you can have the Falcons help you out in the AFC West this year.
Yeah, we're back on Sunday evening for our normal Sunday evening podcast on the bye week, but we will also be coinciding with the Chiefs and Tennessee Titans Sunday night football game. Good chance for all of us to scout the Broncos' next opponent in Tennessee. Pretty much the Derrick Henrys, but we'll see how that game turns out. But Scott, have a great weekend. Everyone else, have a great weekend. We'll see you Sunday. Take care. And as always, go Broncos.